When William Mercer first stepped into Redmond High School, he instantly felt out of place. Everything about the school was clean, polished, and eerily controlled. So different from the colorful chaos of his old school in Birmingham, Alabama. There, murals covered the walls, music echoed through the stairwells, and the atmosphere felt alive. Redmond High, by contrast, felt sterile, almost too perfect. William's mom called it a fresh start, while his dad labeled it a necessary change, but to William, it was simply unfamiliar territory. From the moment he walked through the front doors, he felt the weight of silent judgment. No one stared outright, but the quick glances, the hushed whispers, and the way students looked him up and down spoke volumes. He was the outsider. Despite his calm demeanor and confident posture, reflections of years of training and discipline instilled by his father, he couldn't ignore the feeling of being studied like an unknown variable. At 16 and standing 5'10", William wasn't someone easily overlooked, but in a place like Redmond, he wasn't part of the established social order. The school ran on an unspoken hierarchy. Athletes at the top, wealthy kids just beneath, and everyone else trying to stay invisible. William didn't belong to any category, and that alone made him noticeable. He wasn't loud or confrontational, but his quiet strength and refusal to shrink made others curious, and a few, like Ryan Callow, quietly threatened. From the moment William Mercer arrived at Redmond High, it was clear that Ryan Callow saw him as a threat. Ryan wasn't just another student. He was the school's golden boy, tall, athletic, and effortlessly popular. He ruled the hallways with an air of entitlement, backed by a loyal entourage and the subtle power that came from being the son of a school board member. William, quiet but composed, wasn't looking for conflict. He moved through the school with calm confidence, never seeking attention. But that was exactly what made Ryan notice him. Unlike the other students who laughed nervously at his insults or backed down when challenged, William didn't react. He didn't flinch, didn't entertain the mind games, and that infuriated Ryan. What started as passive-aggressive remarks and accidental shoulder bumps soon escalated into targeted harassment. Ryan would make sly comments in class, ones laced with racial undertones, always just quiet enough to avoid getting caught. He mocked William's background, questioned his place at the school, and tried to provoke him at every turn. But William never rose to it. He remembered his father's advice. Real strength isn't about reacting, it's about knowing when to walk away. That calm resistance only fueled Ryan's frustration. To someone like Ryan, whose power relied on dominance and submission, William's refusal to play along felt like defiance. Slowly, Ryan's pranks grew more public, more humiliating, culminating in the cafeteria incident that would change everything. But at this stage, the conflict was psychological, a silent war of ego and identity. Ryan thrived on control, but William's silence disrupted that. The balance of power was shifting, even if no one realized it yet. What Ryan failed to understand was that William wasn't weak. He was calculating, observant, and above all, patient. And patience, in the face of persistent intimidation, is often more powerful than retaliation. The seeds of confrontation had been planted, and it was only a matter of time before they exploded. Despite the growing tension and relentless provocation from Ryan Callow, William Mercer remained calm and composed. He had been raised to understand the value of restraint. His father's lessons echoed in his mind daily. Don't fight with anger, fight with control. While most students might have snapped under the constant pressure, William chose discipline over impulse. He knew Ryan wanted a reaction, a sign of weakness he could exploit. But William refused to give him that satisfaction. Every shove in the hallway, every sly remark laced with prejudice, every accidental knock of his notebook was met with silence. It wasn't because William was afraid, far from it. He had been taught that walking away wasn't cowardice, It was strength. In a school like Redmond High, where dominance was often measured by aggression and loud voices, William's quiet confidence stood out. He understood the game Ryan was playing and refused to participate. His silence was not submission. It was strategy. He was studying his opponent, watching the patterns, and waiting for the right moment. While Ryan escalated his antics, mistaking William's calmness for fear, William was simply choosing not to lower himself to Ryan's level. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. His goal wasn't revenge or popularity. It was survival with dignity intact. Still, the emotional toll wasn't easy. Some days his fists clenched under the desk and frustration simmered beneath the surface. He thought about telling his parents but already knew what they'd say. His mother would worry, and his father would expect him to handle it with honor. So, William endured, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. He knew that reacting recklessly could cost him more than his pride. It could cost him his place in the school and the chance at a fresh start. And deep down, he understood something Ryan didn't. Real strength isn't shown in how loudly you fight, but in how long you can hold your ground without breaking. William was biding his time, not for revenge, but for the moment when silence would speak louder than any punch ever could. Everything changed on a Friday during lunch period, the moment William Mercer stopped walking away. All week, he had endured Ryan Callow's passive-aggressive jabs, smug glances, and whispered insults. But that day, Ryan pushed too far, literally. It started with a loud, mocking question thrown across the cafeteria about why William was so quiet. When William didn't respond, Ryan escalated. He grabbed the apple off William's tray and tossed it across the room. The act was deliberate, designed to humiliate. Still, William stayed calm, setting down his fork with controlled precision. Then came the shove, a bold move in front of dozens of watching students. The room fell silent, every eye turning toward them, waiting. Ryan smirked, thinking William would back down again. But William stood, not with anger, but with purpose. His body moved like a coiled spring, measured, calm, lethal. In one swift, practiced motion, he used Ryan's own momentum to flip him onto the cafeteria floor. No punches, no chaos, just a clean takedown executed with effortless control. Ryan lay stunned, winded and wide-eyed, as the entire cafeteria watched in silence. William crouched beside him, his voice low and even. "Don't touch me again." Then, without fanfare, he picked up his tray and walked away. The silence broke into a storm of whispers, texts, and replayed video clips. In under a minute, William had gone from quiet outsider to legend. But it wasn't the move that shocked everyone. It was the control. He hadn't fought like someone desperate to prove something. He had simply ended it. For the rest of the day, students looked at William differently, some with awe, others with caution. Ryan, once untouchable, had been publicly dismantled without a single insult or scream. That made it worse. If William had thrown wild punches, it could have been dismissed as a typical high school fight. But this was calculated, disciplined, undeniable. It shook the power dynamics at Redmond High. For the first time, Ryan wasn't feared, and William wasn't invisible. But William understood something the others didn't. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Because guys like Ryan don't forget humiliation, especially when it comes without warning and in front of everyone. The fallout from the cafeteria incident spread through Redmond High like wildfire. By the end of the school day, nearly every student had seen the video or heard the story, how William Mercer had dropped Ryan Callow without even throwing a punch. But what truly captivated everyone wasn't the takedown itself. It was how effortless and calm it had been. Students began whispering in hallways, sharing exaggerated retellings, and suddenly William was no longer invisible. Some admired him, others feared him, but most treated him like a walking legend. Yet William remained detached. He nodded at the praise, ignored the curious stares, and kept to himself. He knew this wasn't respect. It was entertainment. They didn't see him as a person. They saw him as the guy who shut Ryan down. Meanwhile, Ryan disappeared for the rest of the week. When he returned, something had changed. His signature smirk was gone, replaced by a stiff, guarded expression. He avoided eye contact, kept his head low, and walked through the halls like someone who had something to prove but no idea how to do it. William noticed. He didn't celebrate it. He knew better. Guys like Ryan didn't just take a loss and move on. They regrouped. They plotted. William could feel the tension building beneath the surface. Ryan wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The school might have crowned William the new alpha, but Ryan still had influence, and more importantly, connections. William's instincts told him that something bigger was coming. His suspicion was confirmed when Ava Sinclair approached him again, warning that Ryan's father was pushing to get him expelled. That was the moment William realized that what had started as hallway bullying had now become a full-scale power struggle. And this time, fists wouldn't be enough. Ryan had lost in public. Now he was fighting in private. And William would have to decide, stay silent and risk everything, or step up and defend himself not just physically, but intelligently, with truth as his weapon. When Ava Sinclair told William that Ryan's father was trying to get him expelled, it didn't shock him. He had seen this kind of situation before, different city, different faces, but the same injustice. A popular white student starts the trouble, but when the black student defends himself, suddenly the rules shift. Ryan wasn't just using his fists anymore. Now he was using influence, privilege, and power. But this time, William wasn't going to be silent. He knew that if he didn't take control of the narrative, someone else would twist it against him. That night, he got to work. Every piece of evidence he could gather, he did. Screenshots of Ryan's threatening texts, the full video of the cafeteria incident from a student's phone, even messages from witnesses who saw the bullying unfold. It wasn't just about defending himself. It was about making sure the truth couldn't be buried. By morning, he wasn't alone. Ava stood beside him, along with 2 other students who were tired of Ryan's games and ready to speak up. Together, they walked into the principal's office, not with anger, but with undeniable facts. The meeting was tense. Ryan's father had come prepared with half-truths and polished accusations, painting William as the aggressor. But what he hadn't prepared for was evidence. As the video played and testimonies were read, the lies unraveled. William hadn't attacked Ryan. He had defended himself with calm, calculated restraint. The administration couldn't ignore it. Ryan's father didn't get what he wanted. William wasn't expelled. He wasn't even suspended. The truth had won. When Ryan returned to school days later, something in him had shifted. He was quieter, more cautious, his power noticeably diminished. William didn't gloat. He didn't need to. He hadn't just won a fight. He had won a battle of character and truth. In a system designed to protect the powerful, he had made them listen. That victory meant more than a moment in the cafeteria ever could. William proved that real strength isn't just in how you stand your ground, but in how you defend it when the odds are stacked against you. He had shown them all who he really was, and no one would forget it. William Mercer never set out to become a symbol, and he certainly never wanted to be the center of attention. All he wanted was the chance to exist in peace, to go to school, keep his head down, and not constantly be tested. But Redmond High wasn't the kind of place where quiet strength went unnoticed. By standing up for himself, William had changed the narrative, and people were finally seeing him for who he truly was. He hadn't just beaten Ryan Callow in the cafeteria. He had dismantled the image of invincibility Ryan had built for years, and more importantly, he had done it without stooping to Ryan's level. He never threw a punch, never hurled an insult. He simply acted with clarity, control, and truth. In doing so, William proved that strength isn't about domination. It's about knowing when and how to respond. When Ryan's father tried to twist the truth to protect his son, William didn't retaliate with anger. He responded with proof. That decision shifted everything. The students who once laughed along with Ryan now stayed silent. The ones who once ignored William now looked at him with quiet respect. Even Ryan, once so loud and untouchable, now walked the halls with lowered eyes. William didn't need praise or applause. He needed space to breathe, to belong. But what he gained instead was something deeper. The understanding that sometimes the only way to stop people from testing you is to show them that you don't need to prove anything at all. Real respect isn't demanded. It's earned through action, through resilience, and through moments when silence, backed by truth, speaks louder than anything else. Life often teaches us that true strength is not measured by physical power or loud words, but by the ability to remain calm, dignified, and principled in the face of adversity. William Mercer's story is a powerful reminder that silence, when guided by self-control and wisdom, can be more impactful than retaliation. In a world where pride and ego often drive conflict, his patience becomes an example of mature resilience. He teaches us that knowing when to act and when to walk away is a strength in itself. More importantly, his victory did not come from revenge, but from truth. By choosing to defend himself not through anger, but through facts and integrity, William showed that justice can prevail when one stands firm with evidence and clarity. For older generations, who have witnessed both quiet endurance and open struggle, this story affirms a timeless truth. Character always outlasts reputation. In a society where the loudest voice often overshadows the right one, we are reminded that dignity, courage, and discipline still matter. Sometimes, the greatest lesson we can pass down is that true respect comes not from dominance, but from living a life rooted in values that cannot be shaken by fear or injustice.